Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
We are 1 week away. I'm dying, by the way. Like, I'm going to die.
What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I've been sick for over a week, dude. This is like the longest that it's taken me to shake. So it's like, it's getting worse by the day.
Well, I mean, what are we working with? It sounds like there may be a little post-nasal drip in there. Sounds like there could be, I don't know, it could be it might be an allergic reaction to something. What are we fighting off?
No, it started as a cold and it's just progressed to the point where
to what? I mean, do we have antibiotics? Do we have a diagnosis
today? No, I got to call a doctor today.
You go to the doctor today.
Yeah.
Are you wearing sunglasses because you didn't see this coming, or are you wearing is it a lighting issue?
These are Dodgers sunglasses in honor of our guest today, Ben Casparius.
Why? Because the sun's always shining when you're a world champ. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that bling he's about to get on opening day is going to be blinding. I can tell by the Dodgers' ability to spend a lot of money. I feel like those World Series rings are going to be the biggest and most expensive World Series rings we've ever seen, Dallas.
They won't be better than the Braves. The Braves
paid for him up front or with deferred cash.
Wow. I mean, I believe you do, right? Like if you're a player and you get a World Series ring, don't you have to pay the taxes on it?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
I feel like
I can't
that's
help
a
you
thing.
with that. I feel like that's pretty fucked up, if I'm being honest.
I believe that's a thing. Who can we ask, right? Like who's one? We know many World Series champions.
I know.
Ben Casparius.
Yeah. well, he hasn't gotten his yet.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but I'm sure. But I mean, it's kind of like The Price is Right. You know that about The Price is Right. I mean, my friend won the whole showcase showdown, won everything. He won both showcases. And what he got hit with at the end was like, oh, what? They're like, yeah, so this is all yours if you just pay the tax.
How much did he get?
And he's like, oh, buddy, we couldn't afford to take any of it. He took a trip to Puerto Vallarta and he sold some dance lessons that he won. Everything else they keep, because if you're not going to pay the tax on it, then it's not yours. So he was like, no, I'm out. Good. I'm good, dude.
So a quick bit of research here reveals that you do have to pay taxes on a World Series ring. And interesting little tidbit that I found while researching: when the Cubs won in 2016, the ownership group paid for 1,908 rings, so that lower level employees would, obviously that's a symbolic number, but so that lower level employees would receive one. And Ricketts, or the ownership group, paid the taxes on them so that the lower level employees wouldn't have to incur that. Because you figure the tax on a World Series ring may be a significant percentage of their yearly earnings, depending on position they hold.
Yeah, you drop somebody a 6-figure ring and then ask them to pay the tax on that as the peanut vendor. How's that working out?
That's what I had to do.
Exactly why my buddy could not take the couldn't take the win. He's like, I can't afford that. Give me the trip, and what can I sell? I'll do that.
You think they're 6 figures? World Series
ring?
Ring?
Yeah. My ring was worth like $32,000, and I had to pay like 10 or something on it.
Oh my God, $10,000.
Yeah.
So they gave the employees the same ring as the players. I kind of always thought
No. There's at least how the Red Sox did it was there's an A ring, a B ring, a C ring, and a D ring. And like the players get the A ring, the executives get the B ring, the full-time employees get the C ring, and the part-time employees get the D ring, and I got the B ring.
Interesting. Well, I was kind of shocked to see. Did you see the playoff shares came out? Like every player and who the Dodgers all got they got like $400,000 each for winning the World Series. That sounded like a lot to me.
It's a nice chunk.
I mean,
that's half your salary if you're a rookie.
Casparius, our boy, probably made more money in the World Series than he made all year.
Yeah, that's probably true.
If he got the full 400 grand?
Absolutely. Full playoff share, yeah, because, well, I mean, he was, how many games did he pitch in? 10 in the regular season?
Something like that, yeah.
Like 8, 10 games regular season, but then you go to the postseason, boom, full playoff share. You go and get that NLC, you get the, well, they didn't play in the division series.
They didn't play in the wild card.
Or wild card, excuse me. So you got the division, you got the championship round, and you got the World Series. Those are all 3 bonus pools.
477,000.
It's pretty good.
Looks like the Dodgers gave out 96.49 full share equivalents.
Huh.
That's pretty generous relative to recent history.
Well, yeah, 26-man roster, and then coaching staff, executives, blah, 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 blah.
Rangers gave out 76 last year. Houston, when they won, 59.
So you're saying coaches are getting 477,000 too?
Buddy, folks are getting broke off.
All of them? So if you get a full playoff share, you get, and you said how many playoff shares they gave out?
They have
the 96.49 full share equivalents.
And what you do is you vote on that. Like it's voted on who's going to get a share, who gets what. So Casparius could very well be in a conversation where he gets, or he may be splitting a partial share with somebody like that. That could be a conversation. I don't see that happening, but that's how that stuff gets divvied up.
Dallas, for those who don't know, and I might be wrong here, so feel free to correct me, but these decisions are up to the players, correct? So like
absolutely,
whether the assistant bag boy gets a full share is entirely dependent on the player's decision making, right?
Correct.
Yep.
And I gotta assume
it's a very interesting dynamic.
Most coaches in MLB probably making less than 477 grand by a lot. Like
correct.
that's, I mean, how far do you have to go down in the totem pole of a manager makes more than that, pitching coach maybe?
Oh, buddy, yeah, the pitching coach and the bench coach maybe are the guys who are probably being breaded up the most, and then from there, there's a gap. But I mean, that's all organization to organization, what you're valuing, how you treat your people, blah 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 blah.
What do you think a third base coach makes?
All depends. I know a few of them, and I know one who made significantly more than all the other ones.
Okay.
I mean,
Ron Washington?
Let's ballpark this, though. Like, the number is probably, again, tell me if I'm wrong, but a third base coach, I would guess, is something in the broad range of like $150,000 to like $400,000. Is that off?
No.
Okay.
And you can
I think
even,
it's less than most people would assume is where is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it doesn't like being on the field isn't like the entry to barrier or the barrier to entry isn't $500,000. Like, oh, if you're on field personnel, you're making at least 300,000. No, it's not like that, because there's other people that you see in the dugout that also are not even reaping the benefit of pension. So their time might not even be being accrued towards a pension based on how an organization's pension hierarchy works. So like there's a lot that goes into compensating your on-field staff, which is why it's very, very important. And I know, Shohei, you brought this up, that players hold that conversation. Players have that power. I will once again refer back to the moment in time where the A's and the Red Sox were going to Japan to play baseball at the beginning of the season. And when we found out that our coaches and folks that would be attending in our traveling party were not going to be compensated, we said, to hell with you. We're not playing baseball until you agree to pay everybody. And when they agreed to pay everybody, we walked out, we played baseball, and then we got on a plane and went to Japan. If they wouldn't have agreed to pay everybody, we would have not walked out, we would have not have played baseball, and we would not have gotten on a plane to go to Japan and play baseball.
So you're sticking up for Bob Guerin. Good shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure Guerin gets his check.
Make sure he gets that guaranteed.
There we go.
Wow.
You know, if you look, I literally just did this the other day for some reason. I forgot why I searched this, but I searched Dallas Braden, Bob Guerin on Google, and then there's a Getty's image, and the Getty's image, whoever fucking took this picture had a whole description, and he describes the photo of pitcher Dallas Braden, angrily stares down manager Bob Guerin because he's taking you out of the game early or something. And the guy wrote the description like pissed off Dallas Braden looks pissed at Guerin. And it makes this is the villain origin story. That's where the beef all started.
It adds up, doesn't it, Joe?
It's great that we got it on camera and the description to really just have it in writing.
It's hard to deny.
Right
history.
Here.
Mm-hmm. Leave the ball in my fucking hand.
Yep. It's the greatest time of the year again. Football's back and it's here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states in the game. Got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats like touchdowns, passing yards, and more. Did the Cowboys win, Dallas?
Buddy.
Is that 2 in a row?
Buddy.
This is so pathetic.
Look out for them boys, Jared.
Is that 2 in a row or 3?
Look out for them boys. I mean, after what? I think it was 3 bye weeks in a row. Cowboys have really started to turn things around.
Who's their quarterback?
Cooper Rush.
That's right. Feel the rush.
Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head on over to Underdog's simple to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Jared. That's Jared. And Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry. Plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Joe, did you see my tweet last night?
What'd you say?
Let me pull that shit up. Let me pull that shit up for you, brother. I'll read it for you so you can hear it in my voice. My tweet, my voice. I said, I just want to say I love Freddie Freeman and nobody could ever change my stance on that. That's why I said, you know why I tweeted that?
Because of my video.
Because I watched your video. And it was halfway through, I'm thinking like, this is the type of video where you probably get like a message from someone in the Freeman camp to be like, hey man, thank you for doing this. Have you ever gotten that from someone where you've done a video and you've done such a good job that the subject has reached out to you to say thank you for doing a good job on telling their story?
Yeah, but it's never an MLB player.
Like I feel like Chelsea Freeman would be the one to be like, hey, like we saw this. Like Freddie's not reaching out and saying, hey man, thanks, but like I could see his wife being like, hey, this was great. Thank you for doing this for us.
I'd hope. I mean, they owe me a lot.
Yeah.
Finally, someone got to tell the Freddie Freeman story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, without me, no one would even know.
That's true. Well, I mean,
that he had a setup.
I know you're being sarcastic, but I can't recall an all-encompassing production, start to finish. You know, like going back to like Jason Hayward is the truth and Freddie Freeman is the afterthought guy, and going from that to World Series MVP. I don't think I've seen a collection that's put together like that before. So, check it out. It's a very good video. I don't know many people that need to be talked into being a fan of Freddie Freeman. I don't know how many people are like, yeah, kind of on the fence about this guy. The numbers don't do it for me. The personality's a little iffy for me. I don't know that there's anyone out there like that, but it's still worth the watch if you.
No, it is great. It is honestly. I mean, as much attention as Freddie Freeman got overcoming the injuries in the playoffs, and even his family background has gotten a lot of coverage. I think it was kind of understated how much he kind of went through during this season, especially the playoffs. I don't think even at the time we weren't really taking into account that his ankle was visibly fucked up, of course. And then at the time
we talked about whether or not he would make the roster.
Exactly. I mean, I think
you're dealing with all that, and he's dealing with what he was dealing with his son.
That's the biggest part, which people weren't talking about that during the playoffs.
Well, because he just bottled it up. I mean, and that's why like it is. And I'll say this, credit to Freddie. And I don't need to espouse how I feel about how he was able to compartmentalize that. And really it's almost twofold. It's kind of like tough love. I fully appreciate and fully understand where he's coming from. I also fully understand that that's the kind of shit that you have to do in the moment in this job. That's what you got to do. So I will give all the credit or a lot of the credit to Chelsea and to everybody around him, because as a player, you need a support group. You need folks who can fight for you when you have to focus your energy and your attention elsewhere. And that's what undoubtedly I think the video shows too, Joe, is that you have support. There's people around that can
you didn't watch it. Liar.
Allow this thing to happen. Allow him to be in a space where he can compete.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I didn't realize this at the time, but I think because if you look at the timeline, Freddie Freeman's son gets sick and he's paralyzed, can't even walk a month and a half, 2 months before the season ends. And his son, they say he's going to make a recovery, hopefully, but he couldn't walk for the whole last 2 months of the season, right? That's obviously really stressful. Your kid is sick. But it was actually like right before the playoffs, right when the playoffs started, that his son actually walked for the first time, made it progress. So I'm thinking in my head, this guy, yeah, he had a fucked up ankle, broken rib, which we didn't know about. The guy's on painkillers, but mentally, he was probably feeling better with that ankle, just knowing his son could walk. That was probably like a relief, less stress playing baseball than he had in months. So if you look at it like that,
100%. 100%.
Freeman was playing stress-free baseball in like the most stressful time of the year.
Well, and it's such great insight because it tells you, that's why I said, like, you know what these dudes have to go through to compartmentalize issues that they might be feeling themselves, not somebody in their family, just themselves. And to the point of the physical ailments. But now he's also got to worry about, he is worried about every time he wakes up. That's what's on his brain. In between every ball he's hitting in the cage is his son. And then you have that, you get that like vote of confidence, like, all right, we're turning the corner. Fuck, now we go. Ankle, what? No problem. Ribs, no problem. Let's roll.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. The Freddie Freeman story, after all the research, I'm like, dude, I feel like this guy, they put like a curse on Freddie Freeman where that like, he like maybe like sold his soul to the devil or something like crazy where it's like, everyone around him, all these tragedies keep happening around him, but for him specifically, good shit just keeps on happening. I mean, what are the odds to not only make the major leagues, become an MVP, top player, and then to hit like the most clutch home run and arguably, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but like one of the most clutchest home runs in history, like the odds of that happening, you being that guy in order to achieve such crazy heights, everyone around you is just constantly getting sick, constantly tragedies around you, but you specifically are happy or not happy or protected and have the best life ever, but tragedies are happening all around you. I think there could be a Freddie Freeman curse. But watch the video to find out more.
It is a great video. Shout out to Freddie Freeman. It's a great story. It'll make a great movie someday. I didn't realize that at the time when he signed his first extension, the 8-year, $135 million extension, that the general feedback was like, wow, this is an overpay. Like, this guy is not even a star player.
Yeah, that was interesting too, because I didn't really realize that at the time. It was so long ago. But if you look at the numbers, like at the time that Freddie Freeman signed that contract, Hayward had like twice the WAR as him. Even Andrelton Simmons had more WAR than him. Craig Kimbrell had like as much WAR as him as a reliever. And these are all guys who played the same amount of time as him. So it wasn't like Freddie Freeman was the obvious Braves, face of the franchise dude. They kind of just like picked him out of like, they picked him not even based off stats. They kind of just trusted that Freeman was going to be the reliable guy. And they were right.
Yeah. Looks like the Mets are out of the Juan Soto sweepstakes.
Why? Just because
they signed Frankie?
Yes.
They rather have Frankie Montas. Honestly, risky, but it could work out.
I mean,
picking Frankie Montas over Juan Soto, a lot of teams wouldn't do that, but the Mets, they got balls.
A, they did it, and B, God bless Frankie Montas for still making premier big league salaries with like a 5 ERA. It's crazy.
Flash the stuff. That's all you got to do. Flash the stuff.
I mean, the sequence for him really is wild, though, because he signed that make good deal with the Reds, right? Which had an option for him. He declines the option, which at face value, when it happened, my initial reaction was, Frankie Montas is walking away from $16 million. Is that so coming off this season? Well, he obviously knew what he was doing because he basically got the exact same deal all over again because there's an option on this deal for the second year as well. Like, it's obviously an overpay. I think we're probably you don't have to be anti-player to acknowledge that this is probably above the per year cost that Frankie Montas's production would warrant. But two things: A, it's the Mets, right? So they have financial might to flex. So if they're spending $3 or $4 million a year more than Frankie Montas may in a vacuum be worth, they're the type of franchise that can do that. They want rotation depth. It also seems to me that while they're not the same pitcher, they are running back something of the Sean Manaea playbook, which is we're going to take a guy that we think has talent, that we think we can unlock another step with, and we're going to sign him to, basically a 1+1 where the downside risk is pretty minimal. And as we saw with Manaea, the 1 year upside is pretty high. And then lastly, the only thing that stood out to me on Montas was that there was something different going on between his time in Cincinnati and his time in Milwaukee this year. His strikeout rate was 19% with Cincinnati and nearly 29% with the Brewers. He had two double-digit strikeout performances in 5 September starts. He had 0 such starts through his first 25 starts of the season. So, for what it is, if this was another team with more limited financial resources, I would probably hate this deal. For what the role that he's going to play with the Mets and their wiggle room, I think it's perfectly justifiable.
Yeah, I think down the stretch, this was about Frankie down the stretch, flashing enough of his stuff, I think, to warrant some looks from some folks who will fancy themselves competitors who are looking for, I think, important middle ground innings to be accounted for. That's what Frankie, I think, can provide. I don't think he's somebody who's going to go out there and continually give you 7 innings worth of work. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that if you're the Mets and you are positioning yourself to identify guys that you can chalk up, give me 150, give me 170. I think Frankie's that guy. And I think that's where the Mets are at. And I really think this is just about what they think his stuff can do in short bursts. And this all goes back to feeling like if you have a bullpen that can supplement outings that this guy can provide, where you're sort of shortening the game to an extent, then you sign this guy up. But it all comes from a point of leverage.
I also think like each offseason is its own unique animal in some cases. And I've realized after looking at the Montas and the Matthew Boyd contracts that I sort of need to recalibrate in my head what certain players may end up getting this offseason, because, we spent the storyline of last offseason when it was all said and done was who didn't get the money they thought they were going to get, right? Like that was obviously Ohtani was the big deal, but like Snell not getting his and Bellinger not getting his and Chapman not getting his. Matthew Boyd got $14.5 million per season. Frankie Montas is getting $17 million a season. Like, and I'm not hating on those things, but if that's the going rate for that level of production, it almost makes me step back and wonder, like, well, what is Corbin Burnes going to get? Like, what Juan Soto's his own thing, but like, we were talking about 200, 225 for Corbin Burnes. Like, why wouldn't he be $250 million at this point? You know what I mean? Like, it does seem like maybe in my head, at least, I undercalibrated what some of these starting pitchers in particular were going to end up getting on a yearly basis. Or
could this be kind of like a market correction towards the kind of these types of pitchers who are like guys coming off injuries? Because like, I mean, the Rays are famous for doing that. The Dodgers too, like kind of the big brain operations, Moneyball type fucking smart analytics people. Like, let's get a guy who's coming off injury, get him for cheaper. He's got good shit. Get him on the team. Like Braves just did it with Chris Sale, got him a Cy Young. Like this was like the move that teams have been kind of like doing, getting great deals. And now that kind of the book is out, everyone's doing it now. It's driving that price up even more.
I think you're onto something. And also I think the two teams that are doing these things are teams that really should be flexing their financial might in this way, right? Like, so again, we can say Matthew Boyd is an overpay by X million dollars per year, but it is the Chicago Cubs. And they do need starting pitching. And Matthew Boyd, for as much as I was ragging on him pitching really important games for Cleveland in the postseason. Like, he does, outside of that context, serve a purpose during the regular season. And I think he showed enough with Cleveland for a team with more financial flexibility than Cleveland has to be like, well, wait a second, 2.72 ERA and 8 starts with Cleveland after he came back. He did not embarrass himself in the postseason. And I think that the type of teams that are making these moves, it's about what you're saying, Joey, about the analytic. We can tweak these guys and get another level out of them. The other part is that the Cubs and Mets really shouldn't be afraid to spend $15 to $17 million per year for a guy that you think is going to give you 20 to 30 starts a season.
Yeah, and the Mets just did this twice with Severino and with Manaea.
Yep.
And it worked both times. So like this is
Manaea,
this kind of
you got to credit Manaea and the adjustments that he's made for the success that he's had. I mean, that wasn't just the Mets taking a flyer on him and it working out. I mean, Manaea had to put the work in. So, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't just fall bass backwards into a Sean Manaea having a great, or they sort of just fell bass backwards into that. Thing about Boyd is it's going to be a different move, right? Because, I mean, he's started, but when's the last time he posted a 150 inning season?
Oh, many moons ago, Dallas. It was 2019.
That's what's going to be my guess.
So we're now talking about a guy who, if we're talking about flexing the financial might, which we understand that teams need to do, you need to be able to do this if you're in a position to do so. But with Boyd specifically, I think that's a little bit more of a flyer approach than it is with Manaea, because you're going to be putting him into that rotation. What you get, you have in small samples. What you're getting or banking on with a guy like Manaea, or maybe even a guy like Frankie Montas, is you've got a pretty good idea of what that innings limit or what that innings work looks like in totality. For Boyd, it's a question mark. It is a question mark.
Are the Cubs kind of falling into a little bit of dumpster diving syndrome, where they keep, like, they're not inactive in free agency? And I know they gave Dansby Swanson some money, but outside of that, it's been a lot of, $10 million here, $20 million here for a lot of stopgap guys. Like, there's been an absence in the Cubs, especially for a big market team, big market ticket prices. Like, going to Wrigley's not cheap, but it feels like their approach in the offseason in terms of addressing their needs has been cheap.
It almost
even Dansby Swanson. I mean, he's not like a franchise guy, and that's who they spent.
No, but it was
all the money.
184, something like that.
And
Joseph, that's who they spent all the money on, though. Like, that's who they chose to turn into the franchise payday guy. Was
but that
Dansby
shouldn't
Swanson.
be the franchise payday for the Chicago Cubs. $177 million or whatever it was should not be the top line contract on the Chicago Cubs.
I personally think that the Cubs, after 16, were like, all right, great. We did what everybody wanted us to do. We did what we wanted to do. And I think we're good. Not like we're good, we're done, but that was great. That was a good run. Now it's going to take some serious work for us to get back to that point. And I don't know that the Cubs fancy themselves operationally as a team that can be a perennial postseason contender or perennial World Series contender.
That's crazy.
I know it's crazy, J.A., but that's what this is to the point of the lack of signings, to the point of the lack of free agent success in the offseason. I think there's a mild hint of, let's not get this ball rolling downhill, because if we do, folks are going to expect this thing to snowball. They're going to expect this thing to get bigger and better, and they're going to want this every year from us. I don't know.
So in terms of the post-2016 stuff, two things. A, I think they realize that the environment that they compete in, the NL Central, is one where they don't have to behave that way to probably win or compete for the division. Now, that has not worked so far, but I think they can look at the scenario and be like, we don't have to have a $350 million player on this roster to win the NL Central or to be in the mix for the NL Central every year. This last year was a disappointment for sure, but they would not have paid $40 million to go get Craig Counsell if they did not think that this team was in a position to have competed for the NL Central title, even with what we think is a lackluster roster relative to what they could be doing. Secondly, I think there's a thing here between Ricketts and the Cubs and John Henry and the Red Sox, in that obviously they're both brilliant businessmen in their own right. I think both of them overestimated the halo effect that exists when you win a World Series in the present day. I think and obviously John Henry's was mini World Series, but I think with Ricketts specifically, I think to your point, he said, we won in 2016. It's all good now. And I'm not going to totally take my hands off the wheel, but I am going to coast a little bit, and I am going to build up the real estate part of all of this, and I am going to reap the benefits of all of that. And I think you can say he took his eye off the ball. You can say he doesn't care and that this was intentional and that it's all about making the most money possible. But the Bellinger and Swanson just can't be the marquee external acquisitions to supplement the post-title Cubs that we've seen. And I don't know what the answer is, because they're not even being mentioned in the Juan Soto stuff. They were not serious competitors for Shohei Ohtani last offseason. I don't even know who the next person coming through is. There is no Juan Soto next year, right? What part of what makes Juan Soto such an amazing free agent opportunity is that most people, as we've said, don't reach free agency at 25 or 26 in the middle of their prime.
Hey, here's the thing with the Cubs, and this is what I think probably should frustrate Cubs fans, is let's start with the surroundings. Let's start with Wrigleyville, to the point you made about building it up after 16. How do you continue to get asses in the rooftops? You got to have a product that's winning ball games down there on the field. So you need somebody to build around. Well, we're talking about building. You built up Wrigleyville to bring people to the ballpark. You now have to shift the focus back to the field. You have to build that up so that you can put asses in the seats that you've built up around this. The council thing, to your point about the division, this is the point that I made when they hired him, was you're spending this kind of money on a manager to make these type of in-game decisions and to be able to handle the roster, because you're not going to have that marquee player or marquee players that essentially in a game or a series in July allow you to just wake up and staple the fucking lineup to the wall and go get them, boys. You know what it looks like. They don't have that. Craig Counsell's they're banking on him winning, I'd say 10 games a year, when in reality,
their math was way wrong on that then.
I know it, buddy. I know it, because if your manager is single-handedly winning you 10, that's a fucking savant. All right. Well, they're in a tough spot.
It's also a shame too, because I feel like most of the conversation we end up having about the Cubs on this podcast runs negative, and Jed Hoyer, I think, has rightly taken a lot of criticism for post 2016, but it's also not why it's a shame is that they've done a lot of the marginal stuff right. They've done smart things. The Dansby Swanson signing is at worst a neutral signing so far. Suzuki has been a successful signing for them since they brought him over. No question about it. He's the best offensive player on the team. The Michael Busch trade, that was exactly what they were looking to get out of the Michael Busch trade last year. He delivered on his end. The Pete Crow Armstrong trade for a Javier Baez rental from the Mets is a home run acquisition. And if he's anything like he showed in the second half of last season, he may be their best overall player when you combine offense and defense. The Imanaga signing, obviously excellent. Justin Steele is a player development success story. All of these things they have done correctly. But what you'll notice is that none of these is the centerpiece move, or even maybe the number 2 move. It's
supplement it.
Yeah. And that's why it's a shame.
You know what I think a big aspect of this is? I feel like, they're trying to become, Dallas, as you were just saying, they need to focus on the field to get people to come to games or whatever. But it's do they really? Or they just need to be kind of playoff contenders? Because Wrigley is such a big brand. The Cubs they were 6th in attendance last year. They're in a situation.
That's just about winning, Joe. That's just about trying to win a championship. Like them being, that's what Jay was saying is, and that's what we all know about these markets, is that these teams that don't have the juggernaut in-house in the division, everybody understands it's up for grabs. So you almost sort of just look up and down the line around this time of year and go, has anybody made a big splash? No. Feels like the pool's still about 3 feet deep. Nobody's jumped in and dumped all the water out, or nobody's filled this thing up to where we can't swim. Everybody's still good. Okay. Now it's just going to see who's good. It's a fucking race to 85 wins.
Well, what I think what Joe is trying to say is that it's a very similar, I guess, problem, depending on who you are. It's not a problem for ownership, it's a problem for the fan base. Very similar problem to what Red Sox fans have, in that the Red Sox, Fenway Park, it's an attraction. People will come no matter what. Wrigley, the Cubs, it's a brand, it's an attraction. People will come no matter what. So if you're ownership and you're looking at the margins and you're looking at the overall revenue, you're saying, well, what's the problem here? People love this shit. People love mediocrity on the field. They show up in droves to come see our mediocrity.
Especially the Cubs, their whole brand was that we suck for like 100 years. That was that's how they made money. We suck, but still fun.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how I was going to respond to Jared's point. Was I'm willing to be told that I'm totally wrong on this, but having lived in that general area for a decent portion of my life, and still have a ton of friends there, I think the lovable loser stuff, the fatigue on that was almost at an end by the time they ended up turning things around. I don't think there is an appetite in Chicago to return to a lovable losers sort of experience at Wrigley. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and the tourists and all that sort of stuff will drive that. But in terms of actual Chicago Cubs fans, that a return to that environment or that sort of team approach, I think would end up being a disastrous turn of events for Wrigley attendance and the overall Chicago Cubs brand. I just don't think you can go back to that. And I think people had tired of it by the time that it was coming to its end.
Especially after you get that taste of the World Series, bro.
I think it's one of those jokes where I'm not going to brag about winning the lottery, but there will be signs, right? And it's like the Cubs are like, look, we're not out on the Cubs, but if we're going to get back to this lovable loser thing, if this is kind of how we're just going to fall back into doing things, I'm not telling you that it's fuck the Cubs, but there's going to be signs that I'm not happy with this. And that can start to turn out into the attendance and the boycotts and the blah, blah, blah. We know how that goes.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I look at that Cubs run and I feel like you go 108 years without a winning a World Series title, and then you win that World Series in 2016 and all is forgiven. It doesn't really matter what you do before that or after that. I'm just talking about this core. But I even look back on that core and I'm like, is it fair to say that underdelivered? Like that group.
Well, they think about what they had.
One World Series appearance. Like they were talented enough to have like a fucking Houston Astros run where they were in it every single year.
Well, Brizzo and Co., right?
Yeah.
Think about how hot that was. How hot Brizzo and Co. on the streets were at the time. And you pair that with a Javi Baez. You pair that with, Jake
Arrieta. How fucking amazing he
Hope
was
on the mound.
Lester, Blackie.
I think the Baez Bryant thing specifically, and I know I'm biased on this, but like I think that's one of the most fascinating eras of baseball for any team that you could ever analyze, because we're not, to your point, Jared, like, did they underdeliver? It's hard to say that when they broke the curse, but if you're just looking at it objectively, like, what was the rest of it? It was unquestionably a letdown.
Let's say the Cubs won the World Series the Bartman year. Say they won it in 2003. So we're not talking about the elongated stretch. Did that core of Cubs players underdeliver?
Absolutely. You're talking about if they'd won in 03, what would the 16 era have underdelivered? Yes, I think so. And like, we're not just talking about two players that fell off. We're not talking about two players that kind of aged out. We're talking about two players that completely collapsed in what should have been the middle of their primes, and who were also, outside of Chicago, two of the 5 most popular players in the entire sport. Chris Bryant and Javier Baez were like as big as it got in the sport. And then all of a sudden it was just all gone. And like, I don't know, I think it would have been more sad in a lot of ways if this Cubs era had played out and Bryant and Baez had signed extensions, and then, their play went the way that we know that it went. And then their memory in Chicago was tarnished by the fact that the final 5 or 6 years of their stay there were all terrible performances on contracts that everybody was calling them overpaid. If we're talking about like how the 16 team will be remembered, I actually think it's better that those two went on to have the bad portions of their career elsewhere. So that 16 can kind of just be, it's just like this moment in time that
it's protected.
And it's unlike any other World Series victory to me of this magnitude, because the Red Sox in 2004 broke the curse, and that to me was a more magical watch experience than even the 16 Cubs, probably because I was younger and less jaded. But it's not like the 2004 Red Sox in 2005 and 2006 just became utterly terrible. Like Ortiz and Manny didn't just stop playing baseball, basically. You know what I mean? It's just, it's really hard to wrap your mind around, because it did seem like everybody in the industry, everyone was saying that they were as well set up for long-term dominance as any organization had been since the mid-90s Yankees. That was it. That's not me exaggerating. That's what the story was. And it didn't go anywhere near that.
And that's why I think the apprehension from the front office is what it is, because they're looking at it going, can we all agree that was a really cool moment in time? Okay. Can we all agree that we're probably going to run a very high risk with very little reward trying to locate or identify 2 or 3 of those core type players again, have them come together and have us actually be this championship club? Is that I don't know. It feels like the risk of trying to identify and do that and spin that is just too much when we can just sort of throttle down and coast in the Central.
If the current Cubs era had or was more successful, the amount of credit that Jed Hoyer and the Cubs ownership group would be receiving for not signing those guys to long-term contracts, the tenor of the conversation would be completely different, because that they looked soberly, and we can say this is cold-blooded, we can say this sucks, whatever. They looked at Bryant and Baez, and to a lesser extent Rizzo, who was older in a different case, but they didn't invest in those guys long-term. And if we were talking about World Series quality teams for the Cubs in 24 and 25, we would be looking back on those decisions and be like, that was some of the most prescient GMing that we've seen in recent baseball history, to look at your World Series faces and be like,
can't do it.
It's not going the way we want to go with those guys in the future. But it doesn't have that same tone, because the post 2016 or post letting Bryant and Baez go era of the Cubs has been so mediocre.
So to put a bow on this Cubs discussion, which remaining free agent are we the most outraged that the Cubs are not linked to? Because it's not Juan Soto. I don't think we expected Juan Soto to the Cubs, but should Corbin Burns be linked to the Cubs?
Yeah.
To me, it's just name your pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Max Fried, it's Corbin Burns, it's whoever you wanted of that group that we haven't even heard the Cubs sniffed in that direction is, to me, and it's everything we just talked about. They're just not serious players at that level of investment. And the Dansby Swanson thing was, if you look at his AAV, that contract's just really not that big.
Yeah. And I know Tommy Edman might not be a guy who jumps off the page at you in terms of this is a star you got to go with. You got to go get. Feels like Tommy Edman would be a fantastic fit for a team like the Chicago Cubs. A fantastic fit. But they don't have the money the Dodgers do.
All right, we're now joined by World Series champion Ben Casparius, who is, I'm the president of your fan club. I don't know if you saw the tweet during the playoffs, but I was like, I'm firing it up. I'm the president of the fan club. It took me, 2-3 appearances, and I was like, this is my guy. We're going to ride it till the wheels fall off. And the more I knew, the more I was justified in my decision to become the president of your fan club. Welcome to Baseball is Dead.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, this is a pleasure for us having a World Series champion. First of all, how does it feel to be able to say in your mid-20s that you're a World Series champion?
Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. I'm still kind of starting to get used to it a little bit. I'm still going through video, going through clips of, the whole postseason and everything. So I don't know if it's necessarily sunk in yet, but I think it's starting to get there a little bit.
Talk to me about the parade, because how many people showed up, by the way? Was it like north of 3 million? What was the Cubs? The Cubs was like some outrageous number. I
think the Cubs was up there. I can't remember exactly number wise, but I heard we had like upwards of 3 million. And I want to say too, we didn't even drive a whole lot. And it was, I mean, we covered probably a little bit more than a mile, and it took about an hour and a half. And it was
classic.
I mean, it was a dream come true. I want to say the last Dodger parade was 1988. So it's been close to 36 years or something in that range. So it was special for the city. And for us, obviously, it was pretty cool.
What was your moment that you'll always carry with you? I mean, like I put it this way. I don't know how many bevies you had during the parade. So like maybe not every moment that you experienced is going to stand out clear in your mind. For the 18 World Series parade, like I have a few that they're just burned in my brain. I'll never forget them. And then there's some where I was a part of where you could have told me the story and be like, that didn't happen. Don't remember it. What was that moment for you? Where did you like look out into a sea of people and be like, holy shit, like this is real life?
I mean, it pretty much got to the point where it looked like an endless amount of people. I think the coolest moment for me was just, we had two separate buses. So I think the team was split in half, and it wasn't pitchers or hitters on one or the other. It was kind of just a good mix of everybody. But I think my favorite moment was just kind of watching Kersh take it all in.
Yeah.
Like the guy's done everything you could possibly do on a baseball field. He bleeds Dodger blue. And to see how special it was for him on that day, just in terms of what he's actually done, and him saying, this is one of the greatest days of my career. I think it made it a whole lot more special just because, the guy's done it all. And then there's me, who's been, in the show for 2 months or change or whatever it was. And I think it just amplified how unbelievable the moment was.
I forget who we were talking to, Dallas. It might have been Bellinger, but he already had an MVP of his own by that point, where we were talking to someone with the Dodgers, where you walk into that clubhouse and you see this guy's got an MVP, that guy's got an MVP, this guy's got Cy Youngs. And I think whoever we were talking to was already an established big leaguer that had kind of been there and done that. What is it like walking into that clubhouse when you started the year at AA? Walking into a clubhouse where it's like, this is the fucking Avengers of Major League Baseball. Everyone is picking them to go the whole way, win the World Series. And I started the year at AA, and it's a who's who in this clubhouse, and I'm just trying to find my way. What is that like?
For sure. I mean, the advice I got from some of our older staff just throughout the organization was, go in there, like, be quiet, work hard, like ask questions, pick people's brains, this and that. But no, I mean, it's intimidating, no doubt. The first couple of days I was there, I also didn't go to big league camp too. So I didn't really have a relationship with any of the established guys other than younger guys who I was with in AAA for a good part of the year. But no, I mean, it's an all-star team. You know what I mean? Like there's no really one way or the other who you're going to get the most out of. I think in terms of, the bullpen role that I took on too for the first time in my career, it was just an unbelievable group of minds to kind of just bring together and kind of figure out routine wise what to do. And they made it comfortable for me. It was fun, as a rookie, like you're getting picked on or you're carrying speakers and beers and everything like that. So it's an unbelievable culture, and it took a little bit to get used to it and feel comfortable for sure.
So no big league camp, the unfamiliarity of who these boys are. You're going to war with them. So you've got your shield, you've got your sword, that they've got theirs. What is it like walking into that room and trying to ingratiate yourself or introduce yourself? Who was your catch partner, Benny? Who's your catch partner?
My catch partner was Landon Knack, Edgardo Henriquez, and who else did I throw with a little bit? I think I threw with Michael Grove a couple times too. So I was also out with the bullpen guys too. So starters are more on their own, but for the most part. And then our bullpen catcher was our AA catcher last year. So I threw a lot with him too when I first got up there.
So that helps. Familiarity helps.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially as a bullpen catcher's role, just kind of being like, good camaraderie guy. Like putting himself or putting everybody first and, being the guy who's going to, take the load of bullpens and catch play and this and that. So having him there, his name's Hamlet. He's the man. Having him there was unbelievable too.
Was there any pressure that you felt like when you show up, you know what group you're joining, you know what the level of expectation is? Was there an added sense of pressure for you to have to roll up the sleeves and get outs immediately? Did you feel like you were given an opportunity to land softly and safely? Or did you feel like, hey, look, brother, I don't want any of that. I want to go out and I want scalps. I want to put people underground.
For sure. I think that's my mindset just throughout the whole process was I have to minimize what's happening out there. I need to minimize, walking into a big league stadium and just go out there and pretend like it's any other day and just go after guys, And I think too, if you take the mindset into a game of, I need to be cute because I'm facing so-and-so and this and that, you're going to start getting behind. And that's when you start getting hurt too. So I think for me, it was just like, let's pretend we're playing in high school. Let's pretend it's a college game, or let's pretend we're in low A, high A, whatever it is, and just keep the same mindset. And honestly, just go out there and say, screw it. Like here's the best I got. I'm not going to try to do too much. And that ended up working for me in terms of mindset and just kind of giving myself the best chance to compete and perform at the highest level.
When you start the year at AA and you look at all the resources that the Dodgers organization has, is it like are you looking at it as a challenge of I'm going to get to the big leagues this year? Or are you having these internal conversations with yourself where it's like, well, if they need someone to come out of the bullpen, they can just go out and get it. Like, why would I be that person? Like they can just go out and pluck, a closer. Like, it's not even like they're going to get the best of the best. Like, this is the Dodgers. Did you look at it as a daunting task, or did you trust in your ability to get to the big league level this year?
I kind of look, I mean, I've had those internal conversations in terms of like, if I was in another org, I could have been up last year or at the beginning of this year. But I think it's a double-edged sword in terms of you're going to get the best out of yourself in terms of development. And I think then it just comes down to just, working hard, staying on top of the process and everything, like figuring out what works for you. So no, I took it as a challenge. And I think I never really let up with my routine, even if guys were passing me or they go out and spend $1 billion this offseason. That was something that was kind of, it was crazy. Right. And it's one of those things where I looked at it as a challenge. And I think I came out better from that, just because I knew if I'm making it up with this team, like I really earned it in terms of, just their options and their depth and everything, and kind of in that regard.
No doubt. So you're sitting at home in Connecticut and you're riding the wave of coming off a World Series title. And then you see breaking news. The Los Angeles Dodgers have signed 2-time Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell. Like, Do you kind of just sit there and be like, what are we like? This is crazy that and this goes back years. I mean, I know, I'm sure you have as a baseball fan before becoming a major leaguer, you followed what the Dodgers do. I mean, they either get to the World Series and then follow that up with a big offseason signing, or they get to the World Series and then they go out and trade for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner at the deadline the next year. Like, they never let up. Like, how does that motivate you as a player? Does that make you feel like they've invested so much in us? How do I not give 1,000% of myself to them?
For sure. And that's really the culture, I think, that is embedded in the entire organization. And at the end of the day, the better you develop players, you just have more capital in terms of you can go out and trade for guys. You can go out and the return rate for us is so constant. There are guys flying up every year. Like, who's this guy we just got? He looks completely different than he did his last year in college, or, who's this high school guy we just got? He looks like he's a seasoned, guy in AA. And I think that gives us a lot of flexibility. And then, of course, too, we're a big market team. Money's starting to get deferred in terms of the salary cap, and I feel like it just gives us flexibility. And we went out and we got our guy. We got our lefty, horse in the starting rotation, and it's exciting. It's, it's at another guy who's, won 2 Cy Youngs in both, or Cy Young in both leagues. I've gotten to see him pitch a good amount too, just with the rehab stints he was doing with the Padres over the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's going to be cool to kind of, see how he goes about his process and, keep doing what he's doing for us.
Was there a moment for you where it dawned on you like, oh, you know what? This is a little different here. This is a little different here. The expectations are just different. It tastes different when I walk into the room. And when did that happen for you? When did that become apparent for you? Could have been day one you show up. It could have been 2 weeks later. When did it happen? And
so
what was
my situation was pretty interesting because I got called up. We were in Vegas playing the A's. I got called up that night. I think it was Friday night. And I get on, I get picked up at 3 a.m. from the hotel. I get on a 5 o'clock plane, and we have a day game in St. Louis. I think it was a 1 o'clock game in St. Louis. So I'm all messed up. I didn't sleep a second that day. So for me, that was an interesting day because it was just all hands on deck. I didn't even get to really warm up. I got to the stadium at 11 or 11:15. And so for me, I was just like all helter skelter that day, like get out to the bullpen, just be ready to go. I ended up not pitching, get sent back down, and I came back up. I think it was about a week and a half later for August 31st. That's when I did make my debut. And I had a suspicion like I was going to throw that day, and just because of middle relief, and I got called up because we were kind of short on arms going into the weekend. And at the time we were, I think 2.5 up on the D-backs. Like it was a big series. And I think that whole day in Arizona, it was just like, wow, this is, I got a full day under my belt here. Like I'm showing up at the right time. I've got a decent amount of sleep the night before. And it was surreal. You're coming into a big league ballpark. Everything's taken care of. You're eating well. And I was like, this is the show. This is it right here. And kind of going forward from there, the first few weeks, it was, getting used to it. Like, oh, this is unbelievable. And then obviously like we jump right into the playoffs, and I'm rostered for all 3 of the series or whatever it was. And it was just the most incredible atmosphere. And obviously coming back and playing 2 New York teams too, like in my backyard, it's unreal. It's you can't really like replicate that energy, especially in these markets and like the fan bases in general.
How many ticket requests did you get?
A lot.
Like ballpark it for me.
I think for the Mets series, it had to be upwards of 50. And like, I obviously didn't give away 50 tickets. I'd be playing for free, but like it was a lot. And then for the World Series, it was difficult. They capped us a little bit just because of, they're hard to get. They're obviously trying to make money too. And the tickets that they do for family and friends are cheaper, but it was just, I mean, I'm still catching up on my phone, honestly, too, from everything that happened. But yeah, no, the requests were insane. They were insane.
Yeah, how did you handle the dry hump? How did you handle the dry hump? You get up here, I'm a big leaguer. Appreciate you. 3 hours. See you later. You're going back down. Yeah. How did you process that? Did you have an understanding of what's going on?
I had an understanding. I completely understood it too. And I think I was just more caught up in the fact that, hey, like, I got rostered in the big leagues for a day. That kind of changes the course of everything in terms of I'm on the 40 man now. If I need a guy to go up, it's not somebody needs to get DFA'd. We have to open up a completely new roster spot and a 40 man spot. So it kind of went both ways. And I knew versatility wise in terms of being able to either start a game or come out of the bullpen for long relief or just be a stock reliever. I thought that I gave the team flexibility. And so I kind of knew going forward, if I just stay with the process and my routine and, continue to go out there and stay healthy, I think good things are going to happen. So it was kind of a mixed emotion of things. And it was definitely a little bit harder just being up there and not throwing and then coming back, because I had to kind of wait on it a little bit longer rather than just go out there, get the first one out of the way, realize that it's still the same game. So that was the only thing that was a little bit interesting, was kind of just waiting on when that was going to happen.
Jay, you and Ben were neighbors?
Yeah, almost. I mean, depending on when he was there. Yeah, I have to. I'm the resident CT resident, I guess, of the podcast. Yes. So I got to ask you, You lived, born, and played in Westport, Connecticut. You were the 2017 Connecticut Gatorade Player of the Year. You played at UConn. You played in New Britain during your minor league career. What's it been like being able to play like such a meaningful percentage of your career coming up in your home state?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty special, obviously too. And I think the time being spent in Connecticut, like right now, I can't just go outside and play catch, So it's being able to play in the Northeast when it's the springtime and the summer. I think in terms of the weather and just being close to home, you can't really beat it. And going back to UConn after I had transferred was probably the best decision I've ever made for my career, just in terms of the relationships I already had with scouts. I had played with a lot of guys on the team in high school or, in travel ball or whatever it was. And then the coaching staff is just incredible. I mean, there's a reason why they've been together for, I want to say this is their 13th year collectively as a group. And I think that's by far the longest tenured staff in Division I baseball. So it was an incredible experience. And obviously I'm close to home too. So just the familiarity aspect of things.
Well, and
go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, not to get too deep into the Connecticut stuff, but when I was doing some reading, there was a CT Insider article where the Connecticut coach, obviously you went to UNC first. The Connecticut coach was remarkably candid. He was like, I don't think we deserved him at the time. And it was so cool to see him come back into the fold after a couple of years at UNC.
Yeah, I think too, they do a great job of recruiting at UConn. And I think obviously where my headspace was at the time, if I had the option to go play down south in, more of a impactful conference, I was going to do that. So I never really I kind of figured I was going to go out of state, but I never even visited campus in high school, which is wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah. Well, after obviously benefiting from heading back, what is the one thing that you took from your time at UConn that helped shape you into becoming the ball player that you are? Because you talk about the connectivity of that staff. I know how far that can go, having that consistency. So for you, having that sort of tutelage around you, what is the one thing you took from UConn that has helped?
I think just preparation. I feel like in the short amount of time I was there, because it was the COVID year, got cut short, so I didn't play. And then I was there for my redshirt junior year. I just turned into a pro. It was honestly, when I got to pro ball, I was like, we already do all this. It's not, our lifting programs were tapered to ourselves. And it's a big kinesiology school too. So the biomechanical approach of things in our weight room, it just took everything to a whole nother level, which I felt like was really new for me in terms of just my preparation before a game and this and that. So, and obviously the coaching staff, we're working hard. They expect a lot. And I think my mindset just shifted in terms of, going about my process and routine. And obviously that was the first year where I only focused on pitching too. So there was a lot going on. And I don't know if I would have had the success at a different school than I did there, because it was just an all hands on deck situation kind of going into my draft year in a completely different role.
Explain to Dallas, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and out on the West Coast, who has the benefit of being able to play baseball year round, that us New Englanders, it's infinitely more difficult. Some of us made it like you, some of us didn't make it like me, but we both still ended up with World Series rings in the end. Yep. How difficult is it to be a New Englander and become a professional baseball player? It's fucking hard.
Again, too, I think it goes both ways. I feel like if I lived in Florida, it would have been baseball all year round, or if I lived in California, Texas, whatever it was. But I think being from the Northeast, it kind of forced me into basketball a little bit. And with that, I think just playing throughout high school that made me a better athlete, honestly. I think, and being able to kind of during the basketball season treat baseball as I'm doing supplementary stuff, or I'm not burning myself out or this or that, I thought was a good thing for me. And I can't speak for everybody, but in the winter or being from Connecticut, New York, wherever, you have to be super creative, I think, just to be able to get your work in. And it's rare if you can find a facility where you can lift and throw in the same area. So there was times where, I'd drive down to one town, lift, and then drive a completely opposite way for 30 minutes and go throw in whatever facility it was. So, I can't just go outside and, get a lift in and then walk right outside and throw. It was just, you have to kind of really put a lot of effort into getting all of your work done.
You got to want it.
I think I said I was only going to ask one question, but that was a lie. I'm going to ask a second question. So backing up to one thing that you said towards the very beginning of this podcast, which was one of the things you were asked to do was to go from a starter to a reliever with the Dodgers without giving away trade secrets. I was wondering if you could kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, and what was the maybe there wasn't a conversation, maybe it was just all you, but what was the process like when you were told you're coming up to the big leagues, it's going to be in a relief role, and we want you to change your pitch repertoire thusly? Like, what was that conversation like, and what was your reaction to it, or your work that went in after that?
Yeah, I kind of knew going in that it was going to be coming out of the bullpen. So the biggest, I wouldn't say necessarily concern, but just like the biggest emphasis was, how am I going to prepare myself to be ready to go every single day? Because I've never, ever had to do it in my life. It's always, I'm pitching the 5th day, the 6th day. And I kind of talk about starting pitching as being a football player. Like you're every day of the week, you're feeling a little bit better. Like you're trying to get back to 100%. And then, you tear everything down again. And it's just a continuous overload of staying on track. In the bullpen, you don't have a lot of time to do that. It's kind of whatever you got that day. And you're going to have really good days where you feel great. And then you're going to have days where like you feel absolutely terrible, but you got to go out there and just grind and compete. And I think that's something that I got really comfortable with towards the end of the playoffs. And I was like, I know that when my name's called, I'm going to be ready to go. And sometimes you just have to let it happen and not force it. But no, it's hard. I think like that Arizona game, my debut was the 8th inning. It was 6-6 and like we're running out of arms or whatever. And I was told too, like, your role is going to be more middle of the game, maybe a couple innings, or, if the starter gets in trouble, like you might have 80 or 90 pitches too. So getting put into that game and then being able to kind of come out on top and feel good, I think that was a really big, just confidence boost in general. Like, hey, I can do this, even if it's a different role. And then obviously too, like for the most part, you're going out there to get 3 guys out. So your repertoire or arsenal or whatever it is, it just kind of simplifies. Like, hey, we're going to go with our strengths. We have reports on guys, obviously, but stick to your strengths, throw strikes, get back into the dugout, and then just keep turning it over. And I think that was a really big theme in the playoffs too. We go into the playoffs with, I think, 3 legit starting pitchers when, everybody else got 4 or 5 at least. So our bullpen, it was just, guy takes the ball, gets the job done. Next guy. And it was just a theme. And I think we kind of fed off of that down there in the pen. And like we embraced the challenge, just knowing that we were going to be used a lot. And like, this was a lot about us and just being able to keep our team in the game.
Now, Ben, not saying that this happens, but in a world where maybe the conversation's had and they say to you, Ben, I don't know if you've taken a look at the starting rotation depth that we have these days, but we've got some dudes that we think could conceivably give us an opportunity to start to flirt with, kick the tires on a 6-man rotation. And Ben, I'm not terribly, I just don't know how much time we have in that rotation for you, but we really love the idea of what you have been able to do and what you flashed coming out of the bullpen. Where does Ben sit on that decision? Does Ben want to be a starting pitcher? Does Ben just want to get outs to continue to help his team progress? Because I think we understand there's a payday attached to both of these roles, but where does your heart lie?
Yeah, I mean, I think selfishly in terms of my career, like I want to get the opportunity to start, whether it's this year coming up, if it's in 2 years, this or that. But I think in general, like I feel like I'm sitting where I am because I was open to the versatility of, come into the game and get people out, whatever the role is. And I think that's something I really enjoyed. It was, a completely new process for me. And again, like I thought, in terms of my role on the team, I did a really good job of, go and eat up some innings, save a couple guys for tomorrow or this or that. And so I think going forward, it's just how do I stay in the big leagues? And I think that's just being flexible and just tackling every single role or whatever the circumstance is.
I think one of the first questions that I asked you was about walking into the Dodger clubhouse and, what your approach was and all that. And you mentioned, being a good listener, like seeking out advice. Who is someone that you've gotten advice from? Like, who is someone? Because I don't know, like it's a personality thing. Everybody's different. I don't know that I would have the balls to like approach a Clayton Kershaw. Like, have you had conversations with him? And I know Tyler Glasnow is fucking awesome. Like he's one of the most approachable. He's just, no matter how much success he has, he will always be super down to earth. But who have you sort of had these conversations with and picked their brains and been able to actually take something from that?
For sure. I think, it's obviously it's a lot of guys. Like I've had, conversations all over the place, but I think just with who I was with the most, it was the bullpen guys. So guys like Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, Anthony Bonda, Joe Kelly, all of these guys. I think the best piece of advice I probably ever got was from Trinan, and we were kind of just talking about, what's the overall, like, what's the difference from AAA or AA to the big leagues. And he was telling me about how big league hitters can kind of feel fear on a pitcher. Like you can feel like tentativeness, or, if he's a little bit scared to throw a pitch, or if he doesn't want to be in the zone and he's trying to do too much. And big league guys take advantage of that. And he was like, it's the same game. Go out and attack. Don't try to do too much or this or that. And just be even keel out there. You don't need to be super emotional or this or that. Basically just not letting the other team see you, get beat and how you react to that. And I think I kind of took that energy into the games with me. I felt like regardless of what the result is, I'm not going to really change my mindset, or I'm not going to, try to get cute with anything because there's a couple guys on base. And that's where I think it kind of can speed up on guys. And it definitely sped up on me a couple times too up there. But just being able to recognize, go out there and stay in compete mode, attack mode, and don't let the other team see you sweat, basically.
I got a question.
Adam Joe.
Because we seeing Mookie Betts is posting all these cool vlogs about his freaking World Series party. We saw Shohei's wife hitting threes on the court. It looked fucking nasty. Our friend Jared always talks shit about Mookie a little bit because he moved from Boston. Now he's in LA and he's super Hollywood, and he's got all these Hollywood guy with this sunglasses inside fedora or whatever. Did you get to go to that party, and what was it like? Like how top notch was it?
I did go. We had an absolute blast, and it was funny too because he texted in the group chat. He's like, "Hey boys, like we're gonna, we'll do my house at 6:30. There's gonna be a little bit of food, nothing crazy, this and that." And like it was just decked out. Like he's got the chefs there, he's got the DJ there. The decorations are unbelievable, and like we just had a great time. We were playing pickleball, we were bowling, like we were doing everything. He has a little warehouse with just like it's just the glorified man cave that like anybody would have a good time in. So. It was awesome. And it was just good to be with those guys in like a controlled setting where we're just kind of hanging out, get to go over, just the last, couple weeks and just take it all in. And then obviously he was pulling guys up to the top where the studio was for the podcast and kind of just asking questions throughout the night. And I think it was a perfect setting for it. And the groups of people weren't like designated like hitters or pitchers. So like everybody was kind of just mixed and matched with whoever. And it was awesome, especially to speak on it out loud and just everybody's different perspectives. It was cool,
So what'd you bring to the party?
Awesome time.
Did you bring anything to the party?
I brought Sapporo beers to the party.
Atta baby.
I brought
all right.
24 case of Sapporos, which was my job. Yeah.
Good for you.
Trying to get Shohei hammered, dude. Bringing in the Japanese beers.
Yeah. If you have a season where you start the year at AA and finish with a World Series title, how do you even go about creating a goals list for 2025?
Yeah, I think that's another big thing too, was for me, it's just, I want to come into camp pretending like I haven't done anything and not be complacent or this or that. And just, I think the goal is to just help the big league team win in any role, in any way, whatever it is. And then obviously just stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. It's just the availability of, being good to go whenever you get asked to take the ball. And I think that's when, you get to kind of separate yourself if you're one of those guys where there isn't much of an issue of, can he recover in a day? Or, can he start this game for us, this or that? And it's just being open to tackling any role.
I know it wasn't the first time ever, but the list can't be terribly long of people who participate in and win a World Series with a team before participating in a big league spring training camp with the team.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think part of it too was, and this was a very like pivotal point in my career, was going to the fall league last year. So for me, I think my last outing of the year last year was November 7th. So I threw upwards of probably like 130 innings when it was all said and done. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think I was the only pitcher from our organization to get sent to the fall league after already throwing 100 innings or so. And at first it was like, oh wow, I've got 7 more weeks of baseball, but then it was like, I'm going to get a chance to pitch really late in the year, and I can kind of see like, are the wheels still on? Do I feel good? And that was, and I had obviously an abbreviated offseason again, just because we went so late into the year. But I felt like that prepared me a lot for the postseason, just with, hey, I've already thrown this much. I've thrown into November before, and I was in a piggyback role in the fall league. So it wasn't. I don't necessarily call it a relief role, just because I knew what days I was pitching. It wasn't just like on the spot, but it was a different role too, mid game, coming out of the bullpen. So it was just it was kind of the perfect combination of getting ready for this year and kind of was pinpoint to what I was doing in the fall league.
All right, Ben, we've got a shortened season coming up because of the extended postseason.
Yeah.
What stride, what area of focus, what thing is on our drawing board right back here that helps Ben take one more step in the right direction? What does he need to do? What is he working on? And what piece of technology or analytic will you be focusing on to help you sort of achieve this progression?
Yeah. So I think, and obviously like I'm still really early in my throwing. Like I just picked it back up a little bit, and I usually do that. I'll give myself until Thanksgiving and then start kind of getting back into the plyos. Yeah. For me, I think pitch design wise, it's going to be working on a different changeup or splitter variation, where like I don't necessarily have to like manipulate my arm slot to try to get the ball to move because I'm a supinator. So like I'm pronation wise, it's not something that's comfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where the splitter kind of comes into play and kind of mess around with that in terms of pitch design. And then I think too, just going forward, it's still just mindset of, get ahead and then you can kind of play around a little bit, and then just clean up some mechanical stuff. But other than that, I feel like I'm in a good spot. I feel like I recovered well this year. I kind of have a routine that works for me. And I think that's, 80% of it right there is once you figure out your routine and what works for you, it kind of makes your day-to-day a lot better, and you don't have to guess whether or not you feel good or like what you need to do to feel good, I guess. So kind of just stick with that and not try to do too much other than, make sure my body's in a good spot, make sure I feel good. And then obviously pitch design wise, a change-up variation that's kind of just matches my throw.
Can I give you?
Is that something that you changed last year?
Hold on. Can I give you somebody to go look at? Or maybe somebody to talk to, and they are opposite handed. Yeah. But are you familiar with seam shift?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say that too. But okay. I am, and it's something I played around with. It's hard, trying to bring a new pitch on when the season kind of going on.
No doubt. That's why I asked you right now, because now's the time, and this is so great. Ben, I'm glad you're. Well, dude, I'm glad you just said it. Say it again. Now's what?
Now's the time.
Now's the time, folks. Now is the perfect time. So for the athletes who are listening to this, because we've got kids who listen to this, and they're trying to figure out, they get kids in the minor leagues who are trying to figure out how to develop, how to stay one step ahead. And in June, July, you can see the window opening. You can see, I'm knocking on the door. I'm right there. Yeah. Maybe it's 2 more inches of H, or maybe it's 3 more inches of V here, and I'm there. That's the swing and miss I'm looking for. And you almost have to reel that in and say, look, now's not the time. Now's not the time. Let's go get outs. And
it's easy to get greedy like that too, I think. But again, like in your daily work, if I'm not throwing sliders as much off the mound because I'm working on a changeup, it goes quick. Like if you deviate or if your plan changes, like you're going to get on the mound and you're not going to feel good, or it's going to feel off. And so I I thought I was good about that. Like I put that on the back burner for a little while and was like, these are my strengths right now. Everything's working. The league hasn't necessarily told me I need to change this or I need to mix this in, whatever it might be. But that's something I'm going to dive into. And then obviously too, I was playing around with a 2-seam a little bit just to kind of show something into righties and change their kind of just where they're looking and being able to make them stay honest to inside pitches too. So, and then obviously in AA, we're using the minor league ball, which is a little bit different than the big league ball. And the big league ball helps the ball sink, obviously, and like kills vert. So the 2-seam definitely plays better up top. And it's just something, again, I didn't necessarily need because it was just a shorter workload. Like I'm going out there to get 3 guys out and I'm not really facing anybody twice at the moment. So it's not like, oh, I need to get a ground ball right here with the 2-seam or just a quick pull off or first pitch, double play or whatever I'm looking for. So kind of just those 2 things are, I feel like, going to open the door for maybe me having to throw less sliders, or I don't have to throw fastballs at the top of the zone as much, or this or that. And it's just how much can I get away with and not use my weapons, so third time through the order, or whatever it might be, those are still playing and still kind of, they're working.
I tell you, that's bad news for big league hitters if you, my friend, are just starting to refine things and getting that much better and sharpening the tools. Because Benny, what you possess and how you have attacked guys and what we have seen has been very impressive. A lot of success already, and I think there's only more waiting around the corner, man. It sounds like you've got a great idea of who you are, a great feel for how you can grow, how to apply all the tools and resources you have available. So I'm fucking pumped, man. I'm pumped to watch.
For sure, man. Thank you. And I think a good example too is just, you just have to be like willing to learn or just add stuff to the bag, whatever it is. Like Garrett Cole, he has this 2019 season. He strikes out, I think it was like 320 guys. I think that was like the most dominant season I think I've ever seen. And it was 4-seam fastball, curveball, and slider. That was it. And then you see Garrett Cole and, he's still throwing the ball harder than ever, this or that. But it's like, okay, he has this cutter now that he can throw in zone to righties. He has the cutter to show inside to lefties. And then it's like, hey, you have a changeup he has really good feel for. So like it's just an evolution and ongoing process of what can we add to the bag. And as a starter, it's like, all right, I'll throw this righty 2 cutters in this at bat. I can save the slider. I can do this and that. And it's just kind of like, what tricks can you pull out of the bag? And I think on the fly like that, year to year, whatever you keep adding or finding is just going to kind of take you to another level.
Yeah, just bad news if you're sitting on mid to upper 9s, maybe a chundo, and then you break out that fucking split that just disappears. But it's not going to be fun for him, Ben. Not going to be fun.
And that was the big shift too. Was if I'm missing the zone, I'm looking for a north-south approach where it's either above the zone or below the zone. I'm not getting a whole lot of chase laterally just because I'm more of a north-south guy. I'm not kind of trying to split the zone this way. And then I think I'm a unique case where I have a good slider that sweeps from a higher arm slot, not from down here.
Sure.
So it's just a weird combination of things. And obviously I'll get swing and miss off the plate with the slider, but the fastball curveball combo, if I can keep it on the plate, whether it's up or down, it's just, the hitter has to make a decision every pitch if you're below or above. It's if you miss arm side or if I pull one, it's not competitive, and then it's just okay, that pitch isn't there, let's move on to the next one. It's not like, oh, I have to be honest for this or that. So that was a huge concept shift for sure. And
now without saying yes or no, confirming kind of to a question that Shohei had earlier. Yeah. That's probably a conversation that happens closer to arrival in LA sooner rather than later. Is that fair to say?
For sure. For sure. No doubt. No doubt.
Last one for me. I got to ask. First interaction with Shohei. What was it like? What did you feel? We're in the trust tree here. It's okay to say like the first time I had an interaction with Shohei, like I was a little not starstruck, but like it feels different than being greeted by any other teammate.
It was. I remember I walked in and I was obviously like running around, like getting settled, saying what's up to everybody. But I think I just dapped him up and said, what up? And he said, what up? And then I made my debut and like he said, good job and everything. But like, again, like he's super super soft-spoken, respectful guy. Like he's not going to be the one running around the clubhouse and dancing and this and that. But like he was, I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani, you know what I mean? Like I'm walking in, I'm like, the guy looks like a sculpture of a human being. Like what he does on a baseball field on a daily basis is incredible. And I think to share a locker room with him and, you know, obviously win a World Series in his first year as a Dodger after everything he's done in his career and not gotten to the pinnacle of where he wanted to be, that was super special. And, you know, I mean, I personally think he's the best baseball player ever to step on a field. So that's something that I can, you know, I'm going to tell my grandkids about at some point too and brag about it. So he's awesome.
That's the fact. Like you are going to be able to be like, yeah, I won a World Series. I was also on the first championship team that Shohei Ohtani won, like a World Series. That was the first time he won a World Series. I was his teammate. Like,
no doubt.
I know it's kind of like, you know, putting him on a pedestal. It's like, yeah, I won the World Series, but it's like on the same token to be able to say like, yeah, I was on the World Series team that Shohei Ohtani got his first ring.
Even Mookie too. Like I grew up a diehard Red Sox fan. So, and I was a hitter my whole life up until pretty much, I threw a little bit in college my first couple of years, but I didn't make the shift until I got to UConn. And I mean, Mookie's my guy. Like that was who I looked up to in the big leagues. That's who I wanted to watch hit and play, and just how good of an athlete he is and what he's able to do on the field is incredible. So he was another guy where I was like, that's Mookie. You know what I mean? I feel like I got close with him. He took me under his wing, and kind of just to share that similarity with Boston was really cool.
That is very cool. Dallas, anything else?
We got to ask him the final question.
Please.
All right. You have the opportunity to jump into a hot tub time machine,
regular time
and
machine.
go back into, you want a hot tub time machine.
Yeah,
cool gadgets, a lot of cool shit you can do in those. And you get to go back to any moment in baseball history and witness it. You don't get to be a part of it, but you get to witness it. You get to be there. What moment and why?
I'm gonna have to go with 2004.
Which game though?
I don't know. That whole series, that's a tough one. I mean, it has to be Game 7. It has to be Game 7. I think Stadium. Just with what the Sox did, and I think just that atmosphere, and especially at that, I feel like the peak rivalry was at that time. Like I still think it's a huge rivalry. I just think it was more meaningful back then. I don't know necessarily why, but if I could be at that Game 7, I think it would be that game, no doubt.
That's probably my pick too. I feel like I go back and forth on whether or not I'd rather be at the World Series clincher in St. Louis to see them actually win it. But like, the amount of joy that I would have had being at Game 7 in the Bronx, because first of all, they kicked the shit out of them. So like going to the Bronx and being like, you could probably taste the fear in the air. Like there's no way Yankee fans walked into that game being like, we got it. Like that we have this one. Like I feel like they were all just like, man, we're kind of fucked, I feel. And then
I feel like the energy was, I mean, obviously it's different, but that Game 5 against the Yankees, they go up 5-0, and it's like we know they're playing with absolutely nothing to lose, and that's when you play your best ball. And I don't think any of us wanted to go back to LA for Game 6, because then it gets hairy. It's, you know, they're seeing our starters for the second time through in the series. They're obviously getting hot. They were seeing the ball well the last couple games. So, and I think anything happens in that Game 6, and then obviously you go to Game 7, it's all hands on deck. I think Garrett's probably out there again, or Rodon's out there, whatever that needs to happen. So, I mean, I could feel the energy shifting a little bit in that Game 5, and luckily we had that inning and, you know, strung it together, and the bullpen was kind of locked down. But yeah, no, that Game 7 in New York would have been, especially on the road too. I think it would have been cool in Boston, but doing it on the road 4 games in a row is just something that I would have loved to be there for.
I mean, growing up a diehard Red Sox fan, is there any extra enjoyment in winning the World Series, beating the Yankees? Like there has to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially too, like I don't have all my buddies from home. I have maybe one friend who's a Red Sox fan, like of my immediate friends. So it was like and like I have some diehard Yankee fans too. And I this is funny. I invited one of my buddies to Game 5 And he obviously he was on the fence of like, are we rooting for me or are we rooting for the Yanks? And like,
Yeah.
I think he wanted the Yankees to win the World Series, and that's fine. I understand as a fan, but like, it was kind of funny because mixed emotions, like his favorite team in the world just lost the World Series, but like his best friend just won the World Series. And like, he's on the field after obviously celebrating, but I could still feel it on him a little bit. Like he's pissed, and I get it because I would have been the same way. But it was just the circumstances were funny.
Yeah, I don't think that there's not a person on this earth that if they were on the team going against the Red Sox in the World Series, that I'd be like, you know what, I'm going to abandon my Red Sox fandom because I really want them to win the World Series. Yeah, there's no way.
It was a win-win for him. I told him at the end of the day, I was like, hey, we're gonna have some fun over the next couple of weeks. Like, at least you got that going, and then there's always next year. But yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, like I think Chas McCormick's brother is a diehard Phillies fan. So when it was like Astros Phillies, like he's in hell for that. Like it's
no, you really are.
Yeah,
you really are. It's a weird dynamic, but no, it was cool. And again, like, definitely didn't have this, on the or thinking this was going to happen going into the year. And then obviously going back and forth from New York and LA for 2 or 3 weeks and being able to kind of just split time in 2 unbelievable markets and then being so close to home. It was so special. Like it's still hard to kind of wrap my head around.
Yeah. Well, tell them thank you. I mean, I have a few friends that on the Dodgers. I've thanked them all personally for that World Series. Kike, Muncy, Glasnow, Bueller. Who else? Who else do we know on the Dodgers? Yeah, Joe Kelly. Yep.
Blake.
Yep. I never got. Do we meet at the All-Star game? Blake Trinan, was he on the red carpet? I can't remember.
Do we mention Shohei? Like me and him?
I know.
Yeah. Jay Hayes.
I've known Train from Oakland though.
Yeah. But
no, there's a bunch of good dudes.
Great dudes. Yeah. World Series champions. Ben Casparius is one of them. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is awesome. This was a lot of fun. We'll do this again. As you continue to climb that ladder. We'll be rooting for you. And
no doubt.
Appearance number 2 is coming up.
Cut the change, Benny. Cut the change.
It's cutting. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted.
All right, brother.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Thanks.
Well, they went and got him. You thought it wasn't going to happen after the run, after the productivity, after he announced his presence with authority. He became a flavor that they could not go another day without, at least another 5 years without. And that's Tommy Edman, the flavor of Tommy Edman in Hollywood. Los Doyers locked up super utility man Tommy Edman, 5 for 75. Go get your boy. Thoughts on this? Dallas, do you have any thoughts? I do have thoughts on this. I told you Tommy Edman was going to be one of the most impactful acquisitions for the Dodgers, was going to play a major role in their success down the stretch. All of that came true. We talked about Tommy Edman earlier in the podcast being a great fit because of his utilitarianship in a place like Chicago. Instead, it will be for the world champion Dodgers for the next 5 years, providing them with flexibility abound, whether it's in the middle infield, whether it's in the outfield. Tommy Edman, a championship piece to this Dodger puzzle that will be ever present, as we said, for at least the next 5 years.
Yeah. More deferred payments.
Speaking
of payments,
there are some people saying that it was a little bit of a mistake going with Edman over Honeywell.
Yeah, that's true. People were saying that.
You got to make sure, you got to put your money somewhere, but to pick Edman over Honeywell, kind of a glue guy.
I know the main reaction to the Edman thing, other than Dallas's glazing, was, more deferred money. To me, my immediate reaction was that they just valued Tommy Edman at $75 million, and he played the role that he did for their postseason run and World Series win. And we are 5 months removed from them acquiring Tommy Edman from a bunch of stuff they found in the corners of their closets. Like, this is... Yeah, everybody can say, the Dodgers, like $75 million for Tommy Edman. Anybody could have traded for Tommy Edman this past year. Like, the other players involved in that trade were Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham, a guy named Oliver Gonzalez, Alexander Albertus, Heral Perez, and the very Michael Kopech, who they also got, and the very sad Miguel Vargas. Okay. And so they came out of that deal with the two most valuable assets over the remainder of the season. And I think we can all say with some degree of confidence that that Tommy Edman is very likely to be the most valuable asset of these players moving forward as well. So we can say, oh, they signed Shohei Ohtani. Oh, they signed Blake Snell. When does their financial might ever end? Well, the other side of this coin is that they make really smart deals, like acquiring Tommy Edman for a bunch of junk, respectfully, at the trade deadline, and then extend him before he reaches free agency at a number that makes perfect sense for a team in their market for the role that Tommy Edman will play and the versatility that he provides. It's not all about the $700 million for Shohei. Some of it is stuff like this that's really smart too.
This is a perfect signing. Perfect signing. That's why I was all over it when they acquired him. I was telling anybody that would listen, I had fucking Tommy Edman on my fantasy team, hurt, injured, knowing that when he showed back up in LA, this was going to be what we were getting. And the Dodgers got what they got, and they want a lot more of it for at least the next 5 years.
Congrats, Dallas. Right again, Dallas.
That's it.
Fuck. When does this guy miss? Jay, what are the good folks at Built talking about these days?
Oh, they're talking about the rewards.
Yeah.
The Built rewards.
Yep.
The seasons are changing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it is so cold outside today.
Oh, I've noticed.
Yeah, I'm already dreaming of a warm weather getaway. I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more to book my next flight. I'm already talking with my spouse about a trip to Miami.
Wow.
Maybe in May or June. Yeah, I need it.
Miami,
I feel it in my bones
huh?
right now. Yeah, just go down, quick little 2-day thing, do nothing but sit on the beach, warm my soul, come back. Be ready to be a great parent and great podcaster. What's up?
Nothing.
Here's a life hack for you. Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head, that obviously being rent.
Yeah.
Let me explain. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world where you can redeem your Built points towards. I honestly did not know that there were 500 airlines in the world.
I didn't either. I feel like those can't all be trustworthy.
Well, trustworthy or not, you can redeem your Built points at those airlines.
There you go.
Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not?
Yeah.
Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/BID. That's joinbuilt.com/BID. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/BID to start earning points on your rent payments today.
There you go. I was about to make a booger sugar reference during a Built ad read, and I was like, I'll wait until we're done before.
Is that what I talked over you doing?
Well, I was about to say it, and then you were like, "What?" And I was like,
Me not hearing you right away saved you, basically. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, listen. When in Miami, it is what it is. Joseph, what's going on in the TikTok world? What kind of TikToks you putting out there these days?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's a pretty interesting rule change being discussed behind the scenes right now.
What is it?
And Jason Stark just had an article about it.
I like Jason Stark.
Mr. Robbie Manfred, he's high off all the rule changes, dude. He's getting freaking talking about cocaine, bro. That's Rob Manfred's cocaine. He's addicted to rule changes, and it's brought him Now people are saying Rob Manfred's good because the rule changes. So maybe he's, getting the dopamine rush from fucking changing the rules. But there's this new idea that he went on a podcast and basically just threw this out here, which he's always done. You know how they do that? MLB will either leak a weird rule change somehow that seems like controversial. They just put it out there to kind of test the waters, or Manfred will just kind of mention it, not saying we want to do this, but it's an idea. It's being discussed, and then kind of get the public's.
Yeah. Mark Feinstein will just coincidentally happen to have the report. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a new one that he went on and talked about on a podcast called the Golden At-Bat Rule, which essentially
is the bananas rule.
I don't watch the bananas like that. You could tell me better than me, but
all right.
Basically the banana rules. They're trying to turn baseball into the fucking banana ball. It's atrocious.
Wait. Tell me what this rule is, though, because
the rule is all the details aren't really worked out, but essentially, basically, it's like you can each team has one golden at bat. So basically, at any time in the game, you can decide this is our golden at bat. We're going to put our best player in, no matter where you are in the lineup, no matter how many times he's hit, whether he's in the game or not. We're going to put this guy at the plate right now. So if it's like the bottom of the ninth, you're down 1 run, bases loaded, and fucking
here comes Aaron Judge.
Vaughn Grissom comes up to the plate, and you're like, fuck. Our season's over. You can say, actually, psych, boom. Ronald Acuna Jr. is hitting with the season on the line. And you can do it whenever you want. It's first inning, second inning, third inning, ninth inning. And then that is supposed to get more big-time matchups. Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani in the World Baseball Classic. They're trying to recreate that. Juan Soto versus Clase in the playoffs. They're trying to recreate these big moments. And it's a smart idea.
Number one, that's a terrible idea. That's an absolutely terrible idea. Number two, just a question, let's say that is viable. So let's just call it the second Ohtani rule, because that's really what we're after here. Ohtani leads the inning off. Ohtani leads the inning off and now hits a homer, and the Dodgers are within 1. Can Ohtani then let the next few guys take their at-bats?
Yeah.
And now, okay, so he hits the homer. Now they're 1 down. Can he just go, all right, hey, I'm just going to step on home and I got my bat right here. I didn't have to go very far. Let's run it back. Do it again.
Sounds like that detail's still being worked out, Dallas.
Yeah, there's no details on this at all. Manfred just comes out and says, we're thinking about a golden at-bat rule. We're thinking about it. But that is a possibility. There's a few different iterations people are thinking about, at least in the article. Each team gets 1 at-bat. Yeah, but you could do it like that could be the rule. Ohtani could bat twice in a row, theoretically.
Like, what if Shohei's on set? What if he doubles and he's standing on second base? Can you?
Well, that's what I need.
Run
Ghost
for
runner.
him and then have him hit again.
Runner.
Hey, that's what the Manfred Ghost Runner is all about. Yep.
The last man to get out before the inning. Whoever ended the last inning, that's the available Ghost Runner. So now that guy goes out to second base after Ohtani just hit his double and takes over for Ohtani. This is so tired.
Hold on. This is what's going to happen. And the path for this to actually happen is that I guarantee you they're going to roll this rule out in the All-Star game first. And I guarantee you it's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years.
I think it's a great idea for the All-Star game.
Right? Everyone's on board with that. No one is going to say no to that.
That's because one of them's an exhibition and one of them is in theory like a game that has some meaning behind it. I have no problem whatsoever if they want to throw this out in the All-Star game, because the All-Star game is butt, and anything that would make that more exciting, I think, is a great idea.
Here's a question. Is Aaron Boone the manager of the New York Yankees if this rule had been in place so long ago? Does Aaron Boone get the at-bat? Does Aaron Boone hit the homer?
No, I mean, it changes an innumerable number of things. Yeah.
You know,
crazy, right?
So right. Like I understand the idea of it from an exhibition perspective, but when you really dive into it, now you're starting to talk about like hallmark moments that you're taking away from other people. You're taking away the opportunity to become that legend. Like does Kirk Gibson, right? Like he got tabbed. Look, there's nobody else with your bum ass leg. Get up there and do this. But if there was an option to go to somebody else who was healthy in that moment, do they tap that guy? Do they? So
Well,
does Freddie Freeman get his at bat? Does Freddie Freeman hit that grand slam? Or is that just Mookie or Shohei's at bat? Right? Like you could do this for any number of different things, which is like, listen, I think it is the responsibility of the commissioner and the people around him to constantly be thinking of ideas to make the game better or to make sure that the game does not fall behind the attention span of the country. That is different than having to agree that every idea that comes out of their brains or is floated is a good idea. Like, I think to not be thinking of these things would be malpractice, in my opinion, on the part of the commissioner, but that doesn't mean this is a good idea.
No, I was just going to say it the other way. Like, their responsibility, their job is they're the firing wall, right? They're the no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe that one. Let's take a look at that one. That's
we're
job.
sort of saying the same thing different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we don't need you to come up with the ideas. There's going to be plenty of that. We need you to separate the shitty ones from the ones that could be viable.
I love the rule. I love it.
You're an idiot.
You're a boomer, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, all you did is
got serious real fast.
Moments we wouldn't have seen. Oh, maybe Aaron Boone doesn't get his home run. Okay,
yeah,
maybe
fucking
Freddie
does
Freeman
anybody
doesn't get his
need to be
what about all the fucking home runs we don't know about that never had a chance to happen because we didn't have the gold in that rule? I bet.
Yeah, you ever think of that?
Yeah.
Why don't we let's just play sim baseball?
Yeah. Why don't we just mail it in?
Wow.
Just do that.
Couple of boomer ass takes.
Well, that's what you get. You get sim baseball when Vaughn Grissom comes up in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs with the biggest at bat of the season, and you can just sim it. You can just fast forward the TV. He's out.
You get a hero
because he has 1 at bat in the past 3 months, and now the season is over before it's even over. So there you go. You got sim baseball.
Is that how 2023 ended?
Yes, and we could have had. I guess Freddie Freeman wasn't on the team.
Joe clearly over it, but.
Yeah, he brought up a poor guy who's not even on the team anymore. The poor guy used to go get him Chris Sale as the guy taking bullets here.
Yeah,
I'm sticking up for him. I'm saying, Vaughn, brother, you didn't need to be in that position, dog.
You said he's too bad to have been batting.
I'm sticking up for him.
Which is actually true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I didn't say that.
Right, I did.
I'm just saying the golden at bat rule. Maybe Vaughn Grissom's the Braves legend. We don't, he could have got the at bat next series.
Yeah. Still waiting for that big at bat from Vaughn Grissom.
2025.
All right. Congratulations, Brandon Crawford, on a career. A good career.
Can I say something quickly about him, though?
Yeah, sure.
I think this is about as cool, or for the player, I think this is about as rewarding of a career as you could possibly have short of the Hall of Fame. Like, I did not realize until looking at it, he is the all-time games played leader for the Giants at shortstop. Like, the Giants, not the Rockies. Like, the Giants who have existed forever.
Franchise.
He won multiple World Series. He grew up rooting for the Giants and then played shortstop on multiple World Series winners for that team. He won a Gold Glove, at least one. He won a Silver Slugger. He was a multi-time All-Star. He had one of the craziest Renaissance seasons that I can remember in 2021 at age 34, where he basically came out of nowhere to post a legitimate down ballot MVP campaign. I think I'm not advocating for him to be at a level that he's not, but this is, I think it was a really, really good career for a guy who got to play it out for his hometown team.
Yeah.
Dallas was calling him the Derek Jeter of the West Coast.
No, poor man's Derek Jeter. No,
that's fine.
Yeah, it is absolutely a career that should be celebrated, and probably more so fans of the Giants specifically. Sure. But this is going to be an all-time franchise player, and for everything that you outlined, Jay, I know how cool it feels. I know what comes along with playing in your backyard and the reception you get because of that. So whatever comes along with being a perennial all-star, Gold Glove, batting champ, and World Series champion, you can magnify that on a scale that I think guys that only really live that can understand, because it was done at home. So a tip of the cap to Brandon Crawford, a career well put together.
Jersey retire?
Ooh, I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I could see it.
I will say yes. 35 retired, 28 retired. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. I could too.
Maybe Rich Aurelia get some love for that too.
That, you know what, that's not to totally tangent, but like that's actually going to be an interesting conversation, is who from the 2010 to 2014 era does get their jersey retired from the Giants, because the list of people who have their jerseys retired are like the giants of giant baseball, and Buster Posey will obviously be included in that list, and I would assume Mad Bum will be as well eventually. But like where you draw the line on a Brandon Crawford or a Tim Lincecum or a Matt Cain or some of these other people, I do think is going to be whatever. It's not that interesting, but I think it's an interesting line to draw for the franchise.
Sure.
Because those are all those guys you just named, very, very important
For sure.
for many reasons.
Congratulations, Brandon Crawford, on a hell of a career. We'll be back on Thursday this week. We will have the 1990 Cy Young revisited by our very own Justin Havens. We will be redrafting the 2011 draft. Joe, are you what's your stance there? Do you want me to just call you?
Yeah, sure. Call me. I'll win it. Did I win the last one? I probably won, right?
No, I did.
What was the voting like?
I think I got like
did.
93%.
Dude. Well, can I see
I
the
won,
vote?
Joe.
Did we vote? I didn't get the vote. I should get
I
the
think it
vote
got
for
taken
myself.
down. They took it down.
Yeah, we don't celebrate my victories, Joe.
Well, you didn't win.
Nobody won.
So,
I won.
I'm pretty sure I won that one.
Yeah.
But it's the 2011 draft, Joe. Just so you can be prepared for that phone call when it comes. And then Family Feud. Those statistics got put out there the other day, and man, do you guys look like a bunch of fucking idiots. Besides Meg, obviously. But
What do you mean? I had the best fucking everything.
no, I do.
Dude.
You guys
So you're
laughed
just gonna
when
lose the
I was
trust of
like,
the
"Oh,
viewers if
I'm
you
the
keep
I'm the Tuesday night bowling alley champion in Tewksbury." But I mean, the competition is the competition, right? Same thing here. So, just another.
Yeah, I
day
didn't
of
understand the
being
reference.
best.
Congrats, though.
You weren't
Yeah.
here for that.
Congrats, though. Congrats on being the best at Family Feud.
Thank
You
you.
got to tip your caps.
Guy's had his head shoved so far up somebody's ass, he's got double pink eye, and that wasn't a deterrent. He's still looking to blow himself at the same time.
Well,
We got to
I mean-
give him something, Dal. You know?
Well, he's after something, clearly.
He's the best at Family Feud. I mean, that's a good accomplishment.
Yeah, nice sunglasses. You might want to opt for a welding mask next time. This feels like the peripheral wasn't really factored in there, buddy.
I'm sick.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are.
I am-
Yes, you are.
I'm sick.
Sick as a dirty dog.
Yeah.
I am. I'm
Mix
going-
in a fucking baby wipe one time.
I'm going
Christ.
to doctor after this, and I still show up for you, for the listeners. I mean, I don't know if you heard
Yeah.
this, Joe, but the last Family Feud that we did, out of a survey of 100 people, 3 people would have invited me to their Thanksgiving out of all the people in the podcast universe. There was like between Baseball is Dead and Section 10, they voted on like who would you most likely invite to Thanksgiving dinner, and I think I got 3 votes.
Yeah, you got more than Steve.
Steve got 1. I got 3. I think it's because they know, like, I mean, A, I'm either not coming, or B, I'm going to come and eat all the food and just leave.
Oh, they're
Jared's
scared you're
not
going to give
coming
him
to-
a disease, dude. You're going to
Jared-
fucking get your
yeah.
whole family sick.
Jared will be there to
That's
help
true.
you stuff the bird. You're stuffing this from the ass in first, right? Well, let me take a look at that.
Jared's not coming to Thanksgiving dinner unless the main meal is rump roast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared pulls up. Is there any parking? Yeah, in the rear. In the rear. You can stick it in the rear if you want, Jared. That's where there's parking.
Too far.
You can get conjunctivitis without licking butt, Dallas. That's all.
Yeah.
For sure, I've
You
gotten
just-
it from not that, but that's not as funny.
You can.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't mean you did though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In theory, you could have acquired it some other way.
It's plausible that that's not how this went down.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's why
True story,
Mookie
what
Betts is always
happened
wearing
is-
shades inside. You're going to feel like a real asshole, Jared.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Somebody farted and Jared lost an eye. That's
It's both eyes, brother. Both my eyes are infected. It is what it is. Still powered through, though, for you guys. For the audience that doesn't want me at their Thanksgiving.
Take home
That's
message is 69ing after a curry dinner. Bad idea. Bad idea. That's all we got.
Back on Thursday.
We gone.